Hare Krishna, we could give it just a pinch more juice. And Jai Radha Madhava, Kunja Vihari, Prabhupada said everything is here within this song. We have God's name, we have his parents' name, we have his address. Prabhupada said we have everything. And who was the Jai Radha Madhava composed by? Anyone know? Other than Dravida? Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura, who we're going to talk about today. So I was thinking we could sing that song we usually sing on the disappearance days, but we probably sang that already. And Jai Radha Madhava is just appropriate. Here.
Loud enough?
Yeah, it'll do.
Okay.
Jai Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Gopijana Balaba Gidivanadari Gopijana Balaba Gidivanadari Jasodanandana Vajjanaranjana Jasodanandana Vajjanaranjana Jamuntiravanakadi Jamunatiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Balaba Gidivanadari Jasodanandana Vajjanaranjana Jamunatiravanachari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Boom. Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, boom. Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Peri Bhajakacharya Satyajish His Divine Grace Abhay Chadran Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Jagaguru Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Kora Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Nam Char Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Shri Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Go Bhakta Vrinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gogo Gopinath Shamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Mathura Dham Ki Dwarka Dham Ki Navadvip Dham Ki Jagannathpuri Dham Ki Jamuna Maya Ki Ganga Maya Ki Tulsi Maharani Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Samveda Bhakta Vinda Ki Srila Prabhupada Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the divine lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Gauranga. Look at that. Hi, Bo. Nice to see you. So, we're going to read initially, and then we'll turn the lights down. And you can take a nap. I'm joking. Prabhupada said, anyway, Bhagavatam is an atheistic joke, is that Bhagavatam's a cure for insomnia. And I'll tell you something interesting. You may be falling asleep in class. Hopefully this keeps you awake, but maybe it's distracting. But it's interesting. If someone mentions our name, we're wide awake. When Krishna's name is being stressed, but Swamiji is, and even if it's negative or positive, we're wide awake. We're on it. We're tuned in. So it's a matter of what we have a taste for, really. Okay. So I'm assuming that when Balaram gave class, you covered the basic bio details, and I'm sure it was a very nice class. So I wanted to pick some specific highlights. And it's good to understand the significance of the culture at the time. The Kayastas, of course, we know that the devotee, what is it, Upadeshamrita, to think that someone's born in a particular caste or, whatever, this is a Vaishnava aparat to think that about a devotee. Still, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura, in his own autobiography, he talks about how he was born in the Kayastic class. And what that is, they were selected by the British as the most intelligent and expert managers. And they were actually running the British Raj, the British administration of India. And they were Western educated to Western standard, a good command of English. So that's and they began thinking, why are we following all this mumbo jumbo from thousands of years ago that my grandmother told me, and just have faith. So they call it the Bengali Renaissance. And you've got Rabindranath Tagore and his brothers and all these, and they were all taking Western ideas, Western philosophy, and presenting that as that was, and no more superstition. So that was the culture that he was raised in. Srila Bhakti, a very wealthy and aristocratic background. And he had 3 brothers who died. Then he had his father died when he was, I think, 11 years old. And he couldn't get any good answers from the pundits, the so-called Brahmin pundits, nothing that really satisfied. And all of his study of Western philosophers, none of that really did it for him too. None of that really answered his questions. So he began searching. What's it all about? Turned out that his grandfather, his great wealth, because when his father died, when Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura's father died, they lost their livelihood. They had to move and live with relatives, so many things, but they were still very wealthy. The relatives and everything, they were kind of taken in, and they moved to Orissa, and in his grandfather's estate in Orissa, when he passed away, the grandfather passed away. Turns out he had huge debts, and the income from the estate couldn't, he lived in a palatial building. It was so big, but there was no servants. There was no way to, it was like you can imagine wandering around this big, dilapidated estate, and he had to hire guards with bamboo sticks to keep, because it was so big you couldn't keep an eye on it, And people would come into the house and steal things. So, it's just very interesting way he was raised, and then this Western ideas and how he understood it, but it didn't satisfy. And he'd heard mention, he began hearing about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he was very attracted to Mahaprabhu's teachings. And he wanted to find the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Now he's in Orissa and going back and forth to Calcutta, Bengal. And you know how long it took him to find a copy of the Chaitanya Charitamrita? Seriously searching. It took him 7 or 8 years in Bengal to find a copy of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. That's how much diminished the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had. Even Prabhupada's father would invite different, he was very liberal, Prabhupada said. And it was standard practice, not all, but many so-called sadhus had hookahs. And Prabhupada's father would buy this one sadhu that he liked. He would give him a little, Prabhupada said sometimes he would deliver it, a little packet of ganga for the man to, ganja, for the man to smoke, for ganja. So you can understand that what he was up against. And all the intellectuals were thinking, oh, this is all, let me read Western philosophy. So, after becoming, he was always devotional and within his heart. These are leelas, just like Prabhupada was in college and a student. They have their, even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you read in Chaitanya Bhagavat, he was considered a haughty scholar, until he met his spiritual master, Ishvara Puri. So, when his devotion became manifest, Prabhupada considered that he started the Sankirtan movement and preaching that, we don't, Prabhupada said, everything in that time in the culture, if it was made in England, if you got shoes, they were made in England, or if you got cloth, it was made in England. If it was everything made in England was better. Prabhupada says in his shop, in Prabhupada's pharmacy, the Nehru family of, who's our guy, the original first president or prime minister of India. They would only buy Western medicine. They didn't buy anything produced in India, any Vedic. It was all considered second class. So, but Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura became so convinced and proud of Mahaprabhu. He's not arrogant, but confident that this is India's gift to the world. One of the top universities that were connected with India was McGill University. I still think it's one of the best universities in Canada, McGill. Yeah, it's one of the top. It's like our Harvard, And so he sent Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, Life and Precepts, that he wrote. He sent that to McGill University. And the devotees, when they opened the temple in Montreal, it's in Montreal. When they opened the temple in Montreal, they went to the library, and it was still there and being checked out. And Bhaktivinoda Thakura, he sent that. So he also used to see in Calcutta. You have to remember, Calcutta was called the second capital of the British Empire, and it was a beautiful city. I'm thinking of the time. Yeah, it was a beautiful city. I had the experience one time, there was a strike. There's always strikes in Bengal. There was a strike in Calcutta, and there was no traffic. And I had to walk. I went with Ram. We were walking to the American embassy to get him his visa. And without all the traffic and honking and chaos, you could see the city. And these old mansions, they were all... Prabhupada said that he thought... because they would whitewash them. They would take lime and mix it with water and paint it. It was that way they did it in London too. So it was a beautiful white city, beautiful mansions and palatial buildings and big parks. I mean, now Prabhupada said all the Ananda in Calcutta has evaporated. Was Prabhupada's actual statement. But it was a beautiful city. Now, what was I going to say about the Bengal, Calcutta? Well, it'll come back to me. That he saw the Salvation Army. You know the Salvation Army? I think they started in England, actually, but I'm not sure about that. But they were in Calcutta. And what Dravida may know, but let's see if any of the rest of you know. Why did Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura find it very inspirational to see the Salvation Army? Now, this is a big hint. They were out there with a band. In the old days, I don't know if they still do it, but they used to go out there with a band. They'd have trumpets and trombone. But when I was a kid, they'd have a drum, and the Salvation Army had a band, and they would sing When the Saints Come Marching In, or whatever it is, So why was Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura inspired by seeing the Salvation Army chanting in Calcutta? Dravida.
Well, I don't know, but it seems like it's forward and obscure.
Exactly so. He made him very hopeful that people like to go out and sing the glories of God, and here as they're in the West coming to India, the day will come in every town and village that from India we will go to the West and chant the holy name of Krishna. So he was very enlivened by seeing the Salvation Army. I wanted to read about him discovering Mahaprabhu's birthplace, because the Ganga is, alluvial plain. What do they call it? There's no, even our Mayapur temple, they had there was no, bedrock. You drive a building down, you put this, and you get the solid rock, and then you can put a heavy building on top of that. But if it's just shifting sand, our Mayapur is not unique, but it is a very special. It's a floating foundation because there's no bedrock. So they designed the whole thing is linked together. Cushman and Wakeman, one of the best construction companies in the world, Ambarish Ki Jai, Cushman and Wakefield figured out how to make a floating fountain, and that's what our Mayapur temple is resting on. So because there was no bedrock, the Ganga just shifts. You can shift, I don't know, half a mile sometimes, you know. So it'd been lost. And people were advertising, like, you know, Abraham Lincoln slept here. So they've got a gift shop, and they got a Lincoln burger that you can get, and, you know, whatever, you know, Lincoln logs, and, you know, yeah. They have a little, you know, gift shop, and, you know, you can sleep in the same bed that Lincoln slept in. But, you know, historically, he was never there. George Washington was here, this one, yeah. So they had 3 or 4 Mayapurs, and they were making a business off it. And, you know, Prabhupada said, you're stoned for cracking nuts. You know, you crack a nut with a nut crack. So you have the deity is made of stone, of course we know that the deities are not simply that. But and, you know, you put a deity out there, you say it's Mayapur, and people come and they give some donation, you can fill your belly. So there was a big competition over where is Mayapur. But as they say in the West, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura would go to these places, and he just wasn't feeling it. It wasn't there. And it's described in the Chaitanya Bhagavata and other literatures, what is that? No, my neighbors were wild last night. By Nahari Thakur. What is his book? Anyway, there's a number of, in Chaitanya Bhagavata, Chaitanya Chardamrita, there's a number of places that the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was described. So I'll read. All right. During the Christmas break, Thakur took a train to Navadvip with his wife. He writes, quote, upon arriving there and surveying the land in all 4 directions, the hairs on my body stood on end. Proceeding to the Rani Dharmshala, the Thakur arranged for an offering to be cooked to Lord Chaitanya. He then took grains for the first time in many days, he'd been sick, and commented, since my birth, I have not eaten such nectarian food. After this, the Thakur began to come to Navadvip every Saturday to search out the site of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birth. He was stationed in Krishnanagar. However, most of the people had little interest in or actual knowledge of the holy sites of Navadvip, and the Thakur became discouraged. Most of the local inhabitants expressed the opinion that the site of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birth was in Navadvip, but the Thakur was not convinced. Another theory was that the actual site had been lost under the shifting path of the Ganges. Still not satisfied, he continued to try to establish where the authentic birthplace was. One Saturday evening, I heard Prabhupada describe this actually. He was staying on top of the roof of this Dharmshala, and he saw, like the Bible, when they saw the 3 wise men saw over the, Jerusalem, the birth, it was Bethlehem he was born in. Yeah, Bethlehem. So across the Ganga from Navadvip, he's in Navadvip, across the Ganga, he saw this star, this light shining, and it didn't move. And he was with his son. His son saw it too. They had an assistant, a servant, a mundaner. He couldn't see a thing. I don't see it. But Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura said, it's not just me, my son is seeing it too. And he marked the place, and the next morning, as soon as there was light, he went to that place, you know? And people said, there's nothing special here. The only thing is there's this one place that we think it's haunted. They said, why? Because people go there and they hear voices, and there's puja articles left there, but nobody did the puja, and Tulsi grows there wild. What it was the demigods were coming and offering puja to Mahaprabhu's birth site, and the locals thought, well, they're ghosts. They said even the Muslims won't do anything sinful there, so it was protected. And then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura looked at it, and it's described that the Shapta Rishis, the 7 sages, took birth as 7 hills. Sure enough, there were 7 small hills, Tulsi growing wild, voices, no one would go there and do anything sinful. He said, this may be the place, and because of the time factor. But he searched, he found old maps from the former Mughal Empire, and they found a place that was called Mayapur. The name had been changed to, I forget, it was called Minar or something like some other. But everything lined up. It was on the right side of the Ganga. They were supposed to be on the western side of the Ganga, and it had 7. I mean, what are the odds of all that? So he went and got, and we have a picture. We'll show it later on of Srila Bhakti of Jagannath Das Babaji, who was the Acharya at the time in the Gaudiya Sampradaya. Jagannath Das Babaji. He was 120 years old at the time, and he was so old. I've got a photograph of him. He was so old that if he wanted to see, he had to hold open his eyelids, and his servant, whose name slips my mind, carried him in a basket, carried him in a big basket. So 120 years old, eyelids so old that he has to hold his eye open to see, brought in a basket by his servant, when he came, by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura. When he saw the place, he said, "This is it, this is it." And he jumped out of the basket and began dancing in ecstasy. So that's confirmation that it's the actual place. Later on, it may seem like a small thing, but Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur got the British government to establish a post office there called Mayapur. And I forgot to take a photo this time. I'm going to take a photo, but it's still there, the original British post office, because that means on the government records, it means something, that this is the official name of the place and this is the right location, Mayapur. So that was established, and from then on, it was known that that's Mayapur, the birthplace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And even the Brits, the local government, the British Raj, had confirmed it. And that was done by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Yog Peet, which we have some photos of. Now, anything else on this? Because I'm thinking of the time factor. Oh, just as Rupa and Sanatan were sent to Vrindavan by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to excavate the lost pastime places of Lord Krishna. In the same way, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura, after discovering the birth site, discovered a number of other sites of Mahaprabhu's pastimes, like Nrsimhapole, where Lord Nrsimhadev, after bifurcating Hiranyakasipu, went to wash himself off, and they had water sports. Lord Nrsimha, I heard Prabhupada say this, Lord Nrsimha and Prahlad on one side, and the Devas on the other side, and they were bathing, splashing water on each other because he was washing off after, that brief surgical operation. So he discovered a number of those holy places in Navadvip. He personally went door to door. There was what is it called? The Amrit something Bazaar. It was the Bengali language. Later on, it became an English language newspaper. One of the main, like the New York Times in New York. It was the paper of record in Calcutta at the time. And there's an article, and anyway, we'll read it sometime. But they're praising Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura. He was a big magistrate. He was a big guy, very prestigious. And that he'd made a vow that he was going to go door to door and ask everyone to give at least 1 rupee. I don't know what a rupee was worth. It was worth a lot more in those days. But everyone give 1 rupee. And he actually collected money. And the article in the paper says, if he comes to your door, please don't miss the opportunity to do this most auspicious act and help the Thakur in his glorious mission. And with that money, he built that small shrine. We have a picture, we'll show it in a minute, of at the birthplace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then later on, Srila Bhakti said, and the land, he was so prestigious and well respected that the land was donated by the Muslim farmers, which, what are the odds of that? It's to their credit. And later on, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur built the big temple that is there at Yogapit. And when they were doing the construction, making the foundation, they found the Kurma deity of Jagannath Mishra. It's described in Chaitanya Bhagavat. It was one of the deities, a Shila that he worshipped. And they found that Shila, as it's described in Chaitanya Bhagavat, when they were building the foundation, if you wanted an additional confirmation that this is the place. So that's something about the birthplace. Hey, Govinda. Oh, I guess I'll just read this because of the time factor. This is from Prabhupada's narration. Lalit Prasad Thakur recounts in his biographical notes that an attempt was made on the life of Thakur Bhaktivinoda by the Raj of Puri, the king of Puri. In 1874, 80,000 rupees was misappropriated. 80,000, I mean, you could buy, Prabhupada said, a week's worth of rice for a rupee. So you can imagine what 80,000 rupees was. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura, in addition, the chief magistrate was like right under the governor. The governor was British, and the chief magistrate was he was the first to be appointed in the British Raj of that position, to give an idea of how powerful a person he was and well respected. Well, maybe we'll have to do this for 2 days. But the what was I saying? Oh, so in addition to being like the home minister for the state, he was in Orissa, obviously. So for the district of Puri, he was not only the judge and the administrator, but he was also put in charge of the Jagannath temple. And the king of Puri had stolen 80,000 rupees, which, you know. All right. Thakur Bhaktivinoda learned of this and punished the king by obliging him to offer Lord Jagannath cooked prasadam 52 times daily. 52. The vow is that Lord Jagannath's fingers should never become dry. They should always be taking some nice prasadam. So 24 hours, 52, I don't know what that is. That means like every half hour they're making an offering, you know. The king's treasury was soon depleted, and in anger, he decided to avenge himself by assassinating Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. The Thakur's position, by this time he'd been promoted and given a full powers of a magistrate with specific responsibility for the Jagannath temple, was very strong. And he was popular and famous in the district. Thus, the king would have immediately been arrested so the Raj could not take the risk of killing him by ordinary means. The king therefore organized a secret fire jagga in the inner apartments of the palace with 50 pandits in attendance chanting mantras with the intention of killing the Thakur by mystic influence. It's like when the son of Ravana Indrajit was performing his, you know. Okay, so what happens? Although all of this was conducted with the utmost secrecy, still, information of the king's activities was daily passed to the Thakur by informants. After 30 days of jagga, when the last oblation of clarified ghee was being poured on the fire, Thakur Bhaktivinoda was to have died. Instead, at that very moment, the Raja's dear and only son perished within the palace. His son dropped dead. In recalling the period in his autobiography, Thakur mentions indirectly, the king and other persons connected with the temple used to commit many illegal acts. I would go to prevent all such things, and thus I made enemies of the king and the king's men. Because I was helped by Lord Jagannath, no one was able to harm me in any way. So there's that. I wanted to read. I went through. Did I forget it? Okay. These are some narrations from, I just took a few. There's a number of them. These are just two pastimes that Prabhupada narrates personally from Folio. So one I'm just going to tell. There was a ghost who was haunting a tree. And the ghost, would give benedictions, but they're all tamasic, black magic. I want to get this man's wife. I want this man to die. I want my brother to die so I get his inheritance. All kinds of nefarious things. And they would make offerings to this ghost living in the tree. And some pious people said, protested. And he was the local magistrate, so it was his job, to settle things and clear out, So what was his solution? He had a Brahmin read the Bhagavatam sitting under the tree. Just chant Bhagavatam. And when he finished the Bhagavatam, got to the last verse, the tree cracked in half and died, and the ghost was gone by the power of Bhagavatam. So Prabhupada narrates that story. They used to offer in South Africa, one of the gifts is a life member. You get Back to Godhead magazine, you get all the books, you get 3 days free stay, and you get 1 free exorcism. Bhakti Charamars told me about a number of exorcisms that he'd done by reading the Bhagavatam. Some other time when we're telling some ghost stories. But but this is what I wanted to read. Prabhupada tells the story of Vishakshena. Anyway, so many people say it different ways. They do, actually. There's the Arisan way of saying it, the Bengali way of saying it, the English way of saying it. I've heard it so many ways. I'll go with this one, Vishakshena. So the Vishakshena is the name of Krishna's commander-in-chief in Vaikuntha, Lord Vishnu's army. That's the commander-in-chief. So he was claiming to be this personality. Sometimes he claimed to be Vishnu, sometimes he claimed to be Vishakshena. And his, commander-in-chief, his thing was he was stirring up the natives, the locals, to overthrow the British Raj. And Srila Bhaktivinoda, Prabhupada said the British actually were good administrators. I mean, they did some nasty things, cut off weavers' thumbs and artificial famine so people would join the British Army and help them fight World War I. I mean, they did some nasty things, no question about it. But they were good administrators. So he was, and people could peacefully do their dharma. They usually, the Mughals would, cut off, except for Akbar, that's a whole other story. But they let the local traditions go on. They didn't mess. They protected the Jagannath temple and other temples. Yeah. So they were good, and they left people alone, as long as you paid your taxes and did this and that. So here's another story. Someone can remind me some other time when there was a friend of Srila Prabhupada was robbed, and Prabhupada got the British police and found the robber. I just heard that. That's another story. But the point I wanted to make was that as the representative of the British government, this man is claiming, he's trying to fire up the a revolution, and he had to deal with it. So here's the story. Prabhupada tells it. So Kedarnath Datta, Bhaktivinoda Thakura, took up the matter and went to inquire that in the village in Orissa with some constables in plain dress. So when he went there, he had some yogic power, meaning the yogi. So immediately the yogi could tell, "Oh, your name is Kedarnath Datta. I know you are a very good man, but don't be after me. You will not be happy if you try. You help me, I shall elevate you to become the king of the country, but don't be after me." So he knew who he was. He knew his whole, even though the police came in plain clothes, he knew it was the yogi had some power. Now, if anyone, he was Bhaktivinoda Thakura, a strong devotee. If any other person would have been addressed like that, he would have been immediately puzzled. How this man is talking about me, knows that I'm Kedarnath Datta, I'm the magistrate. So he would not do anything. But Bhaktivinoda Thakura was very strong. So an ordinary person wouldn't have, would have been spooked. I'm not messing with this guy. But Bhaktivinoda Thakura was so strong, he said, "Yes, thank you very much. I shall become king. So why don't you go to Puri and stay there?" That was the largest, if you're going to be king, don't stay out here in a village. He was trying to allure him away from his supporters. He's very clever. So he praised him. Like one time a man said, I am Vishnu. Prabhupada said, please accept my obeisances. So many holy men go there. Why are you in this small village? Prabhupada says, he wanted to drive him away from that village and his supporters. Oh, what is that Jagannath? That is wood. I am Vishnu. As soon as he said that, Bhaktivinoda Thakur became fire. This is Prabhupada saying, oh, this rascal is like that? Immediately he ordered, arrest him, arrest him. The yogi showed some fiery spark coming from his hair. Some flames were coming, So the constables, they were hesitating to arrest him. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur ordered, yes, immediately arrest him, handcuff him. So he took him away. They handcuffed the yogi and they took him away, arrested. And as soon as he returned home, all the members of his family, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's, were in fever, high degree fever. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur himself was in fever. This yogi made some trick, yogic trick. So Thakur's wife was crying, oh, you've arrested one great yogi, he's Vishnu, therefore we're now going to die. And Prabhupada's laughing. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, yes, let us all die. Still, what I have done is right. Then there was the date for the appearance in court. In the court, the man was brought, the yogi, you see. Bhaktivinoda Thakur asked, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was also suffering from fever. He was brought on a stretcher. He was so sick he couldn't stand. So he came into you can imagine the dramatic scene. The yogi's there sending fireballs around, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur's, propping himself up on the seat on the bench, the judicial bench. So, all right. He says, still he attended the court and asked the constables, cut his hair. So no barber was available. Prabhupada's laughing. No one would do it. No, I'm not cutting that guy. Like Samson, they cut his hair, he lost his strength. So it must be some mystic city that you keep your power and your strength in your hair. I don't know. Because they knew that Bhaktivinoda Thakur, after resting, he's suffering from fever. Whole family is lying down in fever. So no one would come forward and cut the yogi's hair. So Bhaktivinoda, all right, bring one scissor. I shall cut. So personally he cut, and the man became very thin immediately after cutting his hair. He had some power in the hair. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur ordered 6 months imprisonment. And in prison, he managed to take some poison and died. That's the end of the yogi. So, what's the time? I think what we'll do is we'll come back to this, because I have some other things we'll come back. But let's just show this PowerPoint. So now we need the lights. Don't make Dravida Prabhu get up. Yeah. Use your youthful energy wisely. And shut them all off. And this will be quick. So he was known, I don't know who gave this title. If anyone knows the answer, they can tell. Where are you when I need you? What is this? Who gave him the title the seventh Goswami? Because you have the sixth Goswami, seventh Goswami is Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura. Next. What's the holdup? Oh. Oh, that's disappointing. Tapas. Not to add any more pressure on you. Well, do you need light to see? Okay, well, no. Start again. Anticipation gives rise. Okay, now let's see if it goes forward. Okay, so he appeared, because we don't say born, like the sun appears. So he appeared in Birnagar, which is 100 miles north of Calcutta. It's near Navadvip, in September 1838. They're not sure about the day. And he had disappeared in June of 1914 at 75 years old. So these are the samadhis and the temple that's come up at the birthplace, honoring, maintained by Gaudiya Math. Okay, next. This is his home in Mayapur. When we went to Mayapur in 1973, you could wander around in his house. His bed was there, his furniture was amazing. And from that balcony, it's an interesting thing. I forgot to mention it. From that balcony, he used to cite. If you look on that balcony and you look at the yog pit, he used to meditate on the birth site. Once they knew where it was discovered. So from his house, you could see across the Jalangi, it's a branch of the Ganga, you could see the yog pit, the temple that Srila Bhakti, like that. You could see the temple. And Prabhupada said, from his love-laden glance, he used to sit, Bhaktivinoda Thakura used to sit on this balcony and chant japa and say, when will Mahaprabhu's teachings be heard in every town and village? When will the Westerners come here and chant Jai Sachinandana? And Prabhupada said, just like the glance of Vishnu impregnates the living entities into the world, Prabhupada says the love-laden glance of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura praying to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at the yog pit. If you do a sight, if two things are in a line and the third thing comes up on it confirms quadratic equation. So right in the middle, where his love-laden glance used to go to yog pit, our TOVP and Mayapur is coming up. And it's said by the Shakti of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura and his prayers that the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission will spread in every town and village. That's where our Mayapur is coming up. So that's pretty mystical. There are trees that grow there, Prabhupada said, that are only grow in Vrindavan. I'm a gardener. Certain things grow in certain. They got to be the right climate, the right latitude, and so many different things, But Vrindavan's up north. Mayapur's over here. But they would grow only in Vrindavan. Okay, next. And that's the courtyard around, and it's important because I've got my laser. Click it back. So right here, against the exterior wall, is the Bhajan Kutir of Jagannath Das Babaji. This is looking inside to his kutir. This is at 120 years old, Srila Bhakti, Jagannath Das Babaji, who was the Acharya of the Gaudiya Math at the time. Next. So here he is as a young boy and as a young man. Is it? Yeah. All righty. But I know the other one's Bhaktivinoda Thakura. Okay, next. Sorry about that. I'll fix it. Here he is as a village court. What do they call that? There's a name for judges that travel from village to village. They're on the circuit. Circuit judge. I think they call him a circuit judge. So as the magistrate, he would visit the different villages, and they'd set up a temporary courtroom, and he would hear different cases. So here he is. I don't know what the village is. Somewhere in Orissa. And here he is look at the opulent clothing. And a very powerful person. Okay, next. So this is a sample of his handwriting. He has, see this pocket watch? He had a gold pocket watch, and he managed everything. When we do it in the future, did Balaram read his schedule? Oh, his schedule is a mind blower. He did not waste one single moment. Everything he had a fixed schedule. He wasn't, fanatic about it, like, whatever it is, compulsive, obsessive compulsive. But he had a pocket watch, and he did everything by time. He slept only 4 hours. He would get up, he would go to bed, he would come home. Anyway, it's a whole thing. We'll read some other time. But he kept that gold pocket watch. Okay, next. This is with his family. Now this I know is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. This is his wife. Okay, next. And there's the painting. We don't have a photograph, but it's a painting. He was married twice. His first wife died. I don't know what the disease was. I think cholera, but I'm not sure. But she passed away, and he married, because he had 2 kids, and he got married, and he wound up having, I've seen 10 and I've seen 14. I'm not sure how many kids it was. two by the first wife, and then, now what was I going to say? Oh, so Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, it's too hard. I need help. He prayed to Mahaprabhu, like Advaitacharya praying for Mahaprabhu to come down. So he prayed, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, you've got to send me some help. I need help. And so, of course, we know the story. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, a ray of Vishnu, appeared in his family. And they worked as a team, a transcendental team. But sometimes Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would become angry at his father. You know, they're just, you know, family and brothers and sons and things. So when he was angry at Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he'd call him, you're just an attached householder. So they joke like that. Next. So he was exemplary in both worlds. Here he is as his magistrate, very aristocratic dress, proper English attire. And here he is. Prabhupada said Vaishnava means bare chest. You know, nice hot weather, warm weather. And there he is, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Next. No, this is a Murti of Vishakshena. That we told already. Next. Now this is Sir William Duke. This is a map of the, ultimately what was under the British, started off as the East India Company and all of that. But this was the British-controlled India all the way into Burma at the time of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So this is Sir William Duke. It's hard to find a picture of him. He oversaw the district of Puri. And maybe he was the governor for the whole state of Orissa. I'm not sure about that. I didn't have time to check it out. But later on, he was visiting Calcutta. He had been the governor of Bengal also. And he was visiting Calcutta late, and he's getting ready to retire. And Prabhupada says the British system is that and it's a nice system, when you're an old person, you're getting ready to die, you've retired from it, you go around and apologize to people you've offended. You say, you know, we were on different sides in politics, and I had, you know, and now please forget. You get their forgiveness so you can leave this world in a peaceful state of mind. You settle everything up. You're not envious at your uncle or this or that. You clear it all up. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur had a lot of respect for this man. And as it says here, his Bhaktivinoda Thakur's wife Sir William Duke used to visit their house. And he was particularly fond of puris and sweets, nice Bengali sweets, cooked in ghee. You know, this guy's living on biscuits and who knows what, you know. Huh? Bhakti William used to come and take prasad at Bhaktivinoda Thakur's house. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur heard that he was visiting Calcutta. His son told him that he's visiting Calcutta. So he sent a servant that's, you know, I'd like to meet you. Do you have a time? So yes, definitely. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was living in Calcutta at the time. He came and met with Sir William Duke. And Sir William Duke came out of the, you know, in the courthouse or what, I don't know, what did they call it, Dalu Square or whatever it was. He came out of the big government buildings and personally greeted him and brought him into his office. And was very, very respectful and said, I have to confess, he said, I plotted against you to get you removed from your position as district magistrate. Bhaktivinoda Thakur later on said he was shocked. He always thought he was a friend, you know. But he said, and Sir William Duke said, if we had a dozen more men like you, if there were more men like you, you know, we wouldn't last in India. They would have kicked us out because you're such good administrators and such a powerful person, so intelligent. So he was worried that this man will become influential because it was always a struggle keeping the Brits down. I mean, the Brits keeping India down. It was a constant warring and struggling. Okay, next. But just imagine the caliber of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, just meeting people like that, working, they were respected. So William Duke thought he would come and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, when we read his schedule, would leave the courthouse early than the other judges. And so he was thinking typical, you know, civil servant, cutting out, doing as little as possible. So he went to the court to investigate, because he's responsible. He went to the court to personally investigate. And the secretary said, no, no, no. He does more cases than any of the other judges. He's doing full load plus. And he's thinking, well, he must just be breezing through the cases. How is he getting home early? And he looked at the caliber of the writing, the decisions. He was so impressed. That's when he thought, we get more men like this and they'll kick us right out of India, you know. So he traveled and preached and he made a number of disciples all over Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa, eastern India. Next. We're almost done. So we talked about him discovering the birth site of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is a descendant of the neem tree, Nimai Pandit. He was born under a neem tree. And this was this little hut by collecting door to door in Calcutta. He built it. And these are the deities that are inside, Jagannath Mishra, Sachi Mata, and the baby Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on her lap. So, next. Now, this is the temple, the big temple that was built by Srila Bhaktivinoda Saraswati Thakur, maintained by the Gaudiya Math. That's where they found, it's right next, it's probably maybe what, 20 yards, 50 yards, not something like that from the. And this is the deity of Srila Bhakti. His samadhi is there. Srila Bhaktivinoda Saraswati Thakur established Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's samadhi at Yog Pit, at the birthplace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And that's a deity, the deity inside the samadhi of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Next. So this is his home in Puri, where he lived in Puri. Next. Where he was the magistrate, chief magistrate, that we talked about. This is the Puri Ratha Yatra. They have anyway, that's some other time about the Jagannath temple. Next, because I'm looking at the time factor. So he didn't take sannyas, ordinary sannyas. What he did at the end of his life, he took Babaji. That was the tradition at the time. And he shut himself off from guests in Calcutta, in his house in Calcutta. He feigned that he had paralysis. He told people, no, I'm too sick, I'm paralyzed. And he would just sit. And he got to the point that his servant, whose name I forget, would just put a chadar on him in the evening, take the chadar off at night, and he was completely absorbed in the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Eventually, they noticed, it was, I think, about 4 years, gradually increasing. And by the end of the thing, they just finally noticed that he wasn't breathing anymore. That's how he left. It's called Kopa Samadhi. So next, and I think this is the last slide. So these are the this is the lineage that we come in. These are the seventh Goswami. We're reading his books. We're practicing his teachings. I'm going to do another class. We'll figure out how to do it because, there's some more stuff. So we should be, Sudam Prabhu was at the airport with Prabhupada when Prabhupada arrived in LA. And if you were ever at an airport when Prabhupada arrived, the devotees just took over. The whole place was sprinkling rose water and flower petals and prasadam, cookies or this or that, and at least 5 or 6 madungas, 15 pairs of kartals, hundreds of devotees. You know what it was like. It was just amazing, right? And people just moved out of the way. I remember being in LA, and one of the local airport police asked me, said, "Who is that man? He's glowing." Just blew their mind, So Sudam said, "Prabhupada, when I walk with you, sometimes I feel proud. If your father's some noble person, and I'm the son of so on. But it wasn't mundane arrogance. So Prabhupada said, Sudam asked, "Is that all right? I feel proud." Devotees are humble, more lower than the straw on the street. Prabhupada said, "No, you can be proud. You can be proud that by the grace of my spiritual master, I'm no longer a fool and a rascal." So we should know we come in a noble line, and we have a mission. It's no less than saving the world, and it's working. So we should be very grateful and that and remember that this is the line we come in. This is our duty. This is the mantle that has been given to us. Okay, we can end there. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Who gives class tomorrow? Well, that's okay, because no, it works out anyway, because we have an org day meeting tomorrow. Who gives class Tuesday? I don't want to knock Dharma Setu. No, we'll just do next, because I have an idea of what I want to do next Sunday anyway. So we'll just save it for next Sunday. I've got the 4 progressions of morality, the 4 motivations of human life. Starts with the most mundane, from Bhaktivinoda Thakura, that starts with fear, and then it progresses 4 different stages of what are motivators. Huh? Yeah, I got some good stuff. I spent some time. I've got the 4 benedictions that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura gave to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur.
You have the most valuable things.
I have some things. I have some things to share. So we'll do it on Sunday. Thanks, Prabhu.